Okay, what's going on, people? So this is a topic that I wasn't sure if I wanted to speak on, but with recent events that went on social media and whatnot, I felt as though there's no harm in me touching on it just a little bit, and that's the topic of colorism within the black community. Now, I'm gonna dive straight into it. And the realness is there is a problem. There is definitely a problem, especially with black men who, funny enough, they don't see it as a problem. Now, before we get into this, we need to clarify a few things. Yes, there's preference. Yes, it's okay to have preference. In my opinion, I think it's okay to have preference. However, there's a lot of men in denial. A lot of men have been socialized. This is not their preference. A lot of men have subconsciously been tapped into. You know, they see things around, the media and whatnot. The way it glorifies the lighter skin tone, let's not beat around the bush. The way it glorifies the lighter skin tone in women compared to the darker skin tone. Now, I just wanted to talk on my personal experience, because a lot of people can come on here and talk on it generally and whatnot, but I think let me just speak on my experience. And the realness is, for a long time, I was one of those guys. I was one of those guys who I didn't intentionally feel as though, the lighter skin was better than the darker skin. But what I didn't know is that that is what I thought it was. Subconsciously, I had been tapped into. And my experience was kind of different. Mine didn't initially come from social media. Mine came from the older guys in my family. Those were my older cousins and whatnot. And this is not me having a dig at them at all. I had older cousins. Some of them had, light-skinned girlfriends, like mixed-race girlfriends. And I would come around their house and I would see this family set up. They've brought their girlfriend home to meet the parents and that. They're all around the table. It's a beautiful setting. As a kid, being so highly influenced, I just thought, okay, this is such a beautiful picture. I'm seeing so much love and happiness in this. It's almost right. I then associated what love looks like for a black man with being with a light-skinned woman or a lighter-skinned woman. That's what I internalized. Yeah. So as I grew up, it's what I almost strived for. Now, you need to remember, these older cousins I looked up to. They inspired me as well, just because of the positions they were in. These are successful investment bankers. As a black guy, when you grow up, especially in Southeast London, we grew up in rough areas and whatnot. So getting out and going off to university, getting a degree, getting a good job, that's what I was looking up to. And I felt as though in order for me to emulate that, in order for me to become as successful as them, I have to follow in their footsteps. And one of those things was finding what I thought was the correct love. From what I had seen, it was the light-skinned women. That's who they were going for. Now, I don't know where their preference came from. I don't know, so I can't talk on them. But for me, subconsciously, yes, I did have a preference for a while, which was lighter skinned women. In my sense, it wasn't that I had completely written off black women or anything like that. Where there was the issue is that I was almost holding light-skinned women to less of a standard. Like, when it came to what I was looking for in a woman, that if they were lighter skinned, they didn't have to tick as many boxes. I'm being real here. I didn't know this at the time, but subconsciously, when I look back now, when I evaluate it, this is what was going on. The lighter skinned women didn't have to tick as many boxes, but if they weren't as lighter skinned, they'd have to have so much more going for them. They'd have to be able to bring so much more to me. And that's not an issue, to look at a woman and think you have to have a lot going for you and you have to be able to provide a lot for me emotionally, mentally and whatnot. But every woman, despite her skin tone, should be held to that standard. And that's something that I really had to sit back and evaluate. So when I look on the TL and I see guys saying, oh, I can have a preference, I can have this, I can have that. Where has it come from? Where has this preference come from? That's what you need to understand. That's what a lot of guys are not willing to do, because they realize once they dive into it, once they start looking into the reason why they prefer lighter skinned women, they'll start to see where the flaws lie. They'll start to see that it's coming from a place of maybe hatred for themselves, maybe not for themselves in particular, but It could be coming from a place of hate, and that's something they're not willing to uncover. That's a conversation that a lot of black men are not willing to have. So this is why I say, when we now look in the media and we're seeing all of these successful rappers, whatever they may be, and they're going for the lighter skinned women, it trickles down into their fans who are black males as well, you know, footballers as well, going for lighter skinned women. So many black boys want to be footballers, young black boys, and you'll start to see they're like, right, if this is what it takes to be a footballer, if this is everything that it takes to be a footballer, then let me copy the blueprint, you know, this is the template. And that's what a lot of people, they don't understand. A preference to me is a decision. Conscious or subconscious, it is a decision. And a lot of guys are not ready to have that conversation. Now, I'm not saying the moment a black guy gets with a white girl or a mixed race girl, he doesn't love himself. He doesn't like black women. That's not what I'm saying. But look at yourself and deep it. Are you holding these women of lighter skin to the same standard? Do you expect the same amount from them that you would expect from a woman of darker skin, you know, from a black woman? A lot of guys need to come forward and start to admit that, okay, their preference is influenced by external things. That's number one. It is. Number two, that is a problem, because then that's not you making a decision for yourself. You're making a decision based on what you feel is the right thing to do, based on what society has told you. You need to realize that if you're only getting with women because they're lighter skinned and you're letting things slide, they're not ticking other boxes, but because they're lighter skinned, it's okay, you will never find long-term happiness. Do you know what? Understand what I'm saying? Long-term happiness, because you'll be living with a red flag. You need to hold all women to the same standard. The moment you do that, if you then get with a white woman, by all means, that's fine. I'm not sitting here telling people they're not allowed to love who they want to love. But do you really love that person, or do you love what society tells you about that person? I have learned to hold all women to the same standard. That's one thing that a lot of men need to do. They need to hold women to the same standard. Have a template that you use across the board, rules that you use across the board. Then when you end up with whatever skin tone you end up with, you know you've done it because you love that person, not because you love what society tells you about what that person tells the world about you. Do you get what I'm trying to say there? I hope you've taken that in, man. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe. Leave your thoughts down below on this topic.